the relationships that are going to make it through this are the ones where they realize this isn't about any of that. This is about being there for the person you love and understanding being there is really probably the best thing you can do. You can't fix it. You can't reason with it. You can't change it. You can't chase it away. You have to just accept it. And then you have to figure out what are the steps that you can do to deal with it. You have to deal with it. You can't ignore it. It's not going to go away. It's not going to get better. And the only thing that you can do to make this easier for your spouse is to take your ego out of it and just say, I'm here for you.
Hey, beautiful soul, and welcome to Dear Body, I'm Listening, the podcast for women navigating chronic symptoms, invisible illness, and that daily dance between hope and exhaustion. If you've ever been told it's all in your head, well, this podcast is for you because your body is not lying and neither are you. Hi, I'm Donna Piper, movement therapist, Pilates instructor, and chronic illness navigator. After years of being dismissed, misdiagnosed, and doing everything quote unquote right, but still getting sicker, I created this space to tell our truth. Here we talk about swelling, brain fog, nervous system crashes, and the kind of symptoms that don't always show up on lab results. We're going to explore lymph, breath, movement, self-trust, latest research, books, relationships, basically everything. All from a place of compassion and honesty. This isn't about fixing your body. It's about finally being heard and getting some answers. Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome back to Dear Body, I'm Listening. Today's episode is tender and a little bold because I'm bringing in someone who's seen every version of this journey. The flare-ups, crashes, meltdowns, swollen legs, MCAS reactions, POTS collapses, migraines, and the days I'm running on fumes pretending to be fine. My husband. We've been together for over 20 years, and just in the last 2 years has it come to light. Some of my behaviors and symptoms have been all related to all of these invisible illnesses, the chronic fatigue syndrome, the lipedema, everything. And he's been with me and very supportive the whole way. And I wanted to give him a chance to tell his story because chronic illness doesn't impact you and your body. It changes your ecosystem and anyone around you. So whether you're a caregiver, have a family member, a friend, this is kind of the insight to the other side. I say what it's like living with these illnesses, and he is going to describe what it's like living with someone with these invisible illness that, has been hard to understand. I can't even understand it, so I can't even imagine his perspective. There's an emotional weight, financial adjustments, intimacy shifts, and, there's caregiving burnout no one talks about. And today we are pulling back the curtain on what it's really like to love, live with, and care for someone with lipedema, MCAS, chronic fatigue syndrome, POTS, hypermobility, EDS. And this isn't a blame game. It's a truth-telling moment. It's a window into the quiet sacrifices caregivers make, the grief they may hold, and the way love evolves under pressure. If you've ever wished your partner understood your symptoms, or if you're a partner trying to understand, this episode is for you. So, with no further ado, let's get real, raw, and into the deeply human side of chronic illness that often stays off the record. Let me welcome my husband, Timothy James Piper.
Hi, everyone. This is James, Donna's husband. Thank you for sharing this space with me. And I'm excited and a little bit nervous just to come on here and share with everybody kind of my experience of going through this from the spouse's point of view. But Donna asked me if I would be willing to go through a couple different questions kind of in relation to everything that she's been going through with these chronic illnesses. And I said, yeah, absolutely. However I can support you and then also support any of your listeners and everyone else out there who, is going through this and other things. Definitely, I think it's an experience, unfortunately, unlike any other. And the more that we can spread awareness of things like this, and also create a support group out there for anyone, whether it's the individual themselves or again, a family member, a spouse, a close friend. I think it's just really important to have that level of support out there in the world to give to each other. So for me, I think I first realized what Donna was dealing with was more than just normal tiredness, normal pain. And it took a while because I remember when she brought this up to me and she let me know about her diagnosis with lipedema and mast cell disorder and all of the other issues that she was dealing with. I didn't really have a handle on one, really what that meant for her or what that meant for me. And it took a while to really understand the disease and the effects it was having on my wife. And, it's one thing for your spouse to say, "Oh, I'm just totally exhausted today." I think we all have that at certain points in our life. And, sometimes you're exhausted for a couple days, sometimes it's a week or a month. And it took a few months of her just always being wiped out, even off of the smallest thing. And I started to realize this is a woman who I've always admired and looked up to, who pushed me to go out and do things and pushed me to be active and wanted to go to the beach and wanted to go on hikes and wanted to be fit and active and let's go to the gym and let's work out and let's do Pilates together. And all of a sudden, this driving force in our marriage towards all of the good things she should be doing and all of that support she had been sending my way and encouragement she'd been sending my way stopped. Not because she didn't want to, but because she couldn't. And it kind of became this weird reversal where I would have a day off and be like, "Oh, okay, are we gonna go to the beach today? Are we gonna go to Disneyland? Let's, what are we gonna do?" And now all of a sudden you've got this complete kind of Jekyll and Hyde spouse characteristic where she's just not up for it. She's not wanting to go out. And if we do go out and she has a great, mood and we're looking forward to a day, getting exhausted early on and not being able to have the stamina to make it, even a quarter of a way into what you had planned that used to be a breeze. And it took a while. Again, that was probably, I'd say about 6 months before I started to realize, like, there's some large changes going on in her body, and it's not mental, she's not making it up, she's not gonna just get over it. You can't train yourself out of it. And it was one thing that the tiredness came first, and I started to understand that. The pain was a whole 'nother thing. I didn't even realize there was so much pain until Donna started to learn more about this disease, and she shared more with me, and I read some books with her, and I would ask her questions and say, "Well, what does the pain feel like?" She'd say, my legs are in so much pain right now. They're in so much pain." And you might look at the other person and look at them and say, "But I don't understand. Right now, you look the same to me. You look normal to me. You've been laying around for the last week or 2. How can you be in this pain?" And it's just one of those things that this is so unusual, at least in our instance of my wife being so fit, doing Pilates her whole life, training other people in Pilates, eating all the right things, running marathons. And now you have someone that's completely, I wouldn't say crippled by the condition, but definitely, I mean, it took someone from being very active to not having the ability to do the things that she loved, the things that she was interested in, to almost no activity out of sheer exhaustion and her pain. It's really a very difficult thing to understand. And then once you understand it, it's that much harder to kind of cope with how can you support that person a completely unselfish way. I don't look at this as my life has been affected. I'm looking at how her life has been affected, and it's heartbreaking. And all I want to do is to give back to her and help her and make it better. And this is one of those things that's been the hardest part for me, is realizing I can't. I'm powerless to fix or change this, and I can't help her stretch or go on a walk or get a gym routine going or change a diet. This isn't something that you can just change out of your body or work through and solve. This is major changes biologically and chemically happening to someone's body that are irreversible without some major interventions. So that was really the eye opener to me. And then talking about what was the moment it hit me that this was going to be a chronic illness and our life is going to be different. I think that's a little bit in what I just spoke to. And that when Donna first told me I've got lipedema, I didn't really understand it. I didn't know what that was. I mean, it's like most of Western society. I don't think I'd heard that word before. It's like I could relate it to me. I've got diverticulosis, and I'd never heard that word until I had it. And then once I have had it, I found out, oh, it's hereditary. Oh, my mom has it. And a lot of times this lipedema issues and some of the other things, mast cell, that's all, a lot of that is biological. And you may get that from a family member. And part of our issues, I don't know if my wife's comfortable with me sharing this, but she doesn't know the lineage on her father's side. So we don't really know who her grandparents were on that side and distant relatives there. So this is kind of like one of those mixed bags of you don't know what's waiting down the road for you 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in your gene pool. And here we are with this disorders for her. And these are not things on her mom's side. So it wasn't something we were looking out for. It wasn't something that was easy to diagnose. And I remember the first implication was my wife came to me one day and said, I feel like I'm gaining weight. It's weird. I'm eating all the right stuff. I'm doing all the same things. I'm exercising and my legs feel heavy. My legs feel like they're gaining weight. And I fell in love with my wife. I think she's the most beautiful thing on the planet. And she has always had a little bit kind of a thicker set of legs. And I'm saying that in the most loving way possible because I think she's beautiful. But she never had super petite legs. But when she said that, I thought, like, okay, well, you're just being vain. You're looking in the mirror. And, as we all age, we put on a little bit of weight or our bodies change. And I thought this was just maybe her way of not wanting to accept mother time and that our bodies will change over the years. And so I kind of shrugged it off to that when she first brought it up. And then I remember we had bought a Peloton maybe the year prior, and we'd worked out a little bit on it. And she started just going full bore at the Peloton, and not a little bit. When my wife sets her mind to something and she wants to do it, oh man, get out of the way, or you're going to get run over. She was doing the Peloton like 3 times a day. She was doing the workout classes and the strength training, and I mean, she'd hop off the Peloton when I'm getting ready for work, and I'd come home from work and she's hopping off the Peloton again, drenched in sweat, hours and hours and pushing herself. And she was loving it. She was really excited about it. And it maybe was like 2 months into that. That's when it hit me when she came to me one night and said, "Hey, something's wrong. I'm still gaining weight. My legs are still feeling heavy. I'm gaining weight in my legs and I'm working out so much." And I knew she was. I couldn't argue that with her. And I said, "Well, babe, you've been working out a ton. So, of course, you work out like that on the Peloton, you're going to burn fat, you're putting on muscle, I'm sure. Just feels different in your legs." And I think if anyone's going to know their body, it's probably my wife is going to know her body better than anybody else might know their own bodies. And that's where she said, "No, no, no. Something's different. This isn't like normal." And we didn't know what it was then yet, but I remember she had such conviction about that she knew something was wrong and something was different. And I didn't think it was serious at that point. Again, I thought maybe it was just down to opening another chapter in life, and maybe working out isn't going to garner the same results, and maybe metabolism slows, and everyone's bodies change, but certainly women's bodies start to change at that age of life. And again, I just kind of thought it was that out of not knowing any better and not having the knowledge that we now have about these conditions. And that still didn't sink fully in until I remember it was maybe a year after she was diagnosed. And she said, my legs are going to be gaining weight and maybe around my midsection. And I looked at her and I'm like, "No, baby, I love you no matter what, no matter what." And then there was one time that she was getting ready to go in the shower and she had disrobed. And I think we were going to take some photos for one of the doctors that she was thinking of speaking with about the conditions. And she had me take some photos. So then when we're adjusting all the lighting, I'm getting the camera involved and I'm really looking to get the best angle. I did finally see what's happening to her legs. And that was really when it hit me, when I was like, oh man, like this really is, it's coming for her. And It's changing her body. And even though I know she eats right and has exercised before, and there's no simple cure to this, that was really when I realized, wow, like this is affecting my wife. It's affecting her life. And it was hard. It was hard to see that because I know how crushing this has been to her physically and mentally. And I have to sit here and say again, it's unselfishly, I'm the most upset for her. And all I want to do is love and support her and make her feel better about it. And that's been the hard thing is, I always like to make everything better, whether it's for my wife or a family member or coworkers. And, how can I manage the situation? How can I get this back on track? And feeling powerless in this, that I can't make that better. But it's definitely once the body starts to change, I think that's when it becomes real for everybody. And you start to see that this is a disease, and it is going to change, and it is not going to go away, and it's not going to reverse itself. And that's a scary, scary thing. So emotions that have come up for me as a caregiver and a spouse that I didn't expect, is really fear. You always think that you've got unlimited time and I'll get to that to tomorrow. And if I, slack off here, I can pick up the slack later and I'll catch back up. And this is a disease that waits for no one, and it doesn't slow down, and it doesn't take sorry for, an excuse, and you can't reason with it. It will not only progress, but it will speed up as it progresses. And, once I really did see my wife's legs change, I felt really sad for her because I know how crushing this was for her. There was a night when I came home, and this was well into the diagnosis. She'd been maybe diagnosed for 6 months, and I hadn't really seen it yet, but I know she saw it and I know she felt it. And she had ordered some new clothing because the clothes that she had weren't fitting. They were too tight. And she said, "Hey, can you sit on the couch and can you let me know if this stuff looks good or not?" I said, "Sure, sure." And then I sit down, and she tried on a pair of pants, and then she tried on a sweater, and was going to try on the third thing. And she broke down crying. And there's been very few times in my life where I've seen my wife helpless. And that was just an absolute moment of despair and helplessness for her. And I instantly broke inside. And it just made me feel so bad because I don't want to see her like that. And I don't want her to feel that way. And I would take this disease in an instant and put it in my body if it would make it go away for her. And it's just so sad to see someone struggle with that, where they're unhappy and they're upset and they're ashamed and they feel like they've done something wrong to deserve this. And that's absolutely not the case. That was probably the worst moment of all of this, was seeing her break down and really give in to, this is something that emotionally, mentally, and physically, neither one of us can conquer or fix or change. And you still want to put your best foot forward. And when you can't even put your best foot forward because you're so upset about the condition of your body and the pain that you're going through, and knowing that's the hardest part of this disease, is knowing what's coming down the road for you. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And it's just, there's not a lot of support for this in Western medicine. No one talks about it. It's so easy to be misdiagnosed. And I'll admit, in a very adolescent, dark area of, I'd go wandering the aisles of, Walmart or Target with my parents, and we'd be shopping as a kid, and I'd see a lady who now I know has lipedema. But as a child, I remember seeing someone like that, and thinking to yourself, like, oh, wow, well, that person's really let themselves go. Can't they just stop eating? If your legs look like that, why wouldn't you go to the gym? Why wouldn't you eat a salad? And again, that's from my impressions of, like, a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old walking around and not knowing any better. And the thoughts to myself, nothing I would say out loud, but if I thought that at that age, I'm sure everyone that has come across someone with lipedema, you look at that and it's only natural to assume that person's at that point physically and health-wise because of poor choices that they've made. And that's what I'm here to tell you is there is no one who has made better choices in their life physically, mentally, emotionally, health-wise, eating, exercising. I mean, my wife had championed everything you could to take care of your body right, and she's where she is right now, and this lipedema disease is a real thing for her, and mast cell disorders and all of her chronic illnesses that she's going through, all of that working out, all of the eating right, all of the marathons, all of the Pilates, everything. It didn't change anything for where she's at today. Maybe it delayed it. Maybe it pushed it off. Maybe this or that, but all of those things are completely powerless now. You can only make certain choices to slow down the disease, but it will continue and it will grow. And that's really been the hardest thing is realizing that whether you take care of yourself or you don't, you could be, I don't want to say victim. Victim's not the right word, but you could be the recipient of these chronic illnesses and diseases. And it's just so frustrating because doctors will look at you and say, "Oh, well, you just need to go on a diet. Oh, you need to count calories. Oh, you have to cut carbs. You have to have less pasta. Don't drink any alcohol." Or, there's all these easy answers that are just possible solutions that unfortunately for this problem aren't only not solutions, but they actually might push your disease further and it might increase the speed of the disease. So that's the upsetting thing is not even getting the right information out there and having to find out for yourself and do all the work yourself. I think the hardest part emotionally of dealing with this and taking care of my wife with these invisible illnesses is you just don't know what to expect. I don't know which Donna I'm waking up next to every morning, and is she gonna be just absolutely exhausted and stay in bed all day? Or is she going to get up and have a good day and wanna go out and have fun, and it's almost like old times, but when that happens, it's very rare, and most of the time, it might start the day like that, and by halfway through the day, I can look at her and I can tell she's exhausted and she wants to go home and she wants to rest, and, there was a little bit at the beginning where I was frustrated because I'd be like, "Well, you just slept for 3 or 4 days, and you took it easy, and you didn't do a lot," and it's hard to understand what your spouse's body is going through because it's how do you relate to that? We've all had a day that we're hungover. We've all had a day that we hit the gym too hard. We all had a day where we were exhausted from a week of work, and, this is like that to the nth degree, and after just doing easy little activities, and so, I think, the first time we went to Disneyland, and I was excited to get out of the house, and she seemed like she was having a good day, and an hour into that, she's like, "I'm tired. Can we go home?" And it's like, "Oh, well, okay," selfishly, I'd like to stay. Can you hang with this, or do we have to? And we bought these passes, and now did we waste our money? And there's easy things that you can hook into. Luckily, I was able to get out of that pretty quick and look at, well, this isn't James, this isn't about you. This is about your wife. And she's been so loving and supportive with all of your endeavors and your illnesses. And oh my God, I could do an entire podcast about all of my illnesses, but she's been there for me for that. And that's where I had to instantly say, no, 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 don't go there. That's not healthy. That's not right. This is not how she was when you were having issues with asthma and diverticulosis and being fat and out of shape and overweight and back pain, chronic back pain, all sorts of stuff. And that's where I remind myself daily that she's always been there for me, and it's my turn to be there for her. And even if I don't understand it, and even if it could be frustrating and there's things I'd like to share with her and do together, maybe this just isn't the time for that. And hopefully we'll get back to that one day and she'll feel up to it again. And that would be the most rewarding thing ever for me is for her to get back to enjoying her life and living her life the way that she wants without feeling like she's locked in this jail cell of a body that is just making her feel terrible and tired and afraid of what's happening inside and outside of her body. That's what helps me stay grounded in all this is when she's unpredictable and she isn't feeling well, I say, no problem. What can you want me to get you a cold compress? You want me to bring home some food for you? I'll do the laundry. Let me clean up around the house. It's really having the awareness to have an open heart to say, let me take care of this now. And I can't say I'm always the best at that because I work a lot. And when I come home, I'm tired and I'm exhausted and I mentally want to take a break. And doing laundry and cleaning the house and picking things up and is not what I want to do at the end of my day. And sometimes I fail at it and sometimes I do well at it. But I constantly remind myself, till death do us part, and in sickness or in health, this is what I signed up for. And I know she would be doing the same for me. And that's where I'm here for the long haul, good or bad, to take care of my wife and to help her get through this. How has chronic illness changed our relationship? It's definitely taken a physical toll on our relationship. And that's been an adjustment of we can still have closeness. We can still sit there and watch a movie together and laugh, or we can take a small walk around the area we live in. And there's different ways we can be physically together than ways that we used to be physically together before this disease. And, without going into too much discrete detail, but that's something that's changed. With this, I know she's not up to run a marathon. I know she's not up for a day at Disneyland, but I also know that she's not up for us to be intimate with each other. And that's hard. And I know it's not out of a place for her not wanting to, but I know that it's really, she can't. She can't. And I think that would be a very easy thing to get upset about or to take offense to or to feel rejected by. And I haven't struggled with that. I've just known that we've kind of shifted gears in our life a little bit right now. And right now that's just not, there's other ways that we can be intimate with each other and be there for each other. And it's nice that we still have that. And we had a very healthy part of that relationship before this. And so that's what helps us through this. And, whether we're watching a Stranger Things marathon for literally the 10th time, there's ways that we both support each other. And when we take a walk and the things that we talk about, and she'll encourage me about something in my professional life, and I'll encourage her with her professional life and this podcast. And there's little ways that I can find that same excitement and that same adrenaline rush to be there with my wife. And that's one of the things that I look forward to is a creative way to spark that same fuse, so to speak. Have there been moments when I felt helpless with this disease? Yes. And it's really been when Donna broke down and was upset that clothes weren't fitting, and then the clothes that she was buying she didn't feel looked good on her, and she broke down crying during that. As I shared, that was really, really difficult, where I felt helpless in that moment. When I really started to see her legs change the form and the nodules, and the diseased fat is becoming evident, that's just another one where that's when it really got serious for me and I felt helpless. And I'll do anything to make this right for her and make her better, and whatever it costs and wherever she has to go and however long it's going to take. Absolutely, because I can only imagine what this is like for her physically and mentally and emotionally. And I wouldn't wish this on my biggest enemy. And I just want this to go away for my wife and to go back to how she was and give her back her life that she used to have, and let her work out and let her be fit and let her go on long walks and not be winded and absolutely exhausted. And the mental strain, she's always been such a strong-willed woman. And I have seen parts of her where she's wanted to give up or just give in or throw in the towel. And that has been one of those areas where I feel helpless. And I remember saying, "Well, let's go for a walk or let's try this or let's eat this or what can I do?" And there was some moments where that would spark some anger in her because she felt like I don't get it and I don't understand and it just can't be fixed. And then I would get upset because well, I'm trying to be there for you and I'm trying to, it's just that you can sit there and destroy each other over something like this, and you could point fingers or you could want credit or all these different avenues. But really, at the end of the day, the relationships that are going to make it through this are the ones where they realize this isn't about any of that. This is about being there for the person you love and understanding being there is really probably the best thing you can do. You can't fix it. You can't reason with it. You can't change it. You can't chase it away. You have to just accept it. And then you have to figure out what are the steps that you can do to deal with it. You have to deal with it. You can't ignore it. It's not going to go away. It's not going to get better. And the only thing that you can do to make this easier for your spouse is to take your ego out of it and just say, I'm here for you. And if that means you have to vent, I'm here for you to vent for me. If you need someone to hold your hand and you want to cry on your shoulder, then I'm right here for you, babe. And if you need someone to sit here and take 4.5 hours to try to figure out how to book airline tickets to Europe for you and do all this stuff, and I'm going to absolutely do that and everything in between. It's both of us have no knowledge of this prior to this. And so it's a learning curve for both of us. And it's me being accepting of her and her body. And also, I have to say, it hasn't always been easy, but there had to be some acceptance on her part too, that I just wasn't going to quite get this at first. So there was definitely some tears and some fights when I would say something that would upset her. I would ask a question or I'd make a statement or I'd come up with an idea. And it took a while before I really realized that I could do that in the past for other issues and I couldn't do that for this. And only after about maybe the eighth or ninth time we got into a big fight about it did I realize, oh, okay, I can't do that. That's not going to solve this issue. That brings me to another great point with the flights and all the stuff we've been looking into. But a lot of my fear, my own fear with this was there's two. If we can find a doctor, if we can find a procedure, if we can find something that she can do, the biggest fear is, can we fix this? Can we stop it? Can we reverse it? Can we knock it back into oblivion so that if and when it comes back, it's decades from now? So that was one, was the fear of, is that out there and can we find it? And can we trust it? Can we believe it? And then the second one was, if we do, I'm scared. How much is that going to cost? I mean, this is such a huge disease. It's not well known, as far as I understand it, in the Western US. You can't go to your local urgent care or ER. Your primary care physician isn't going to go, oh, yeah, there's a lipedema specialist I can refer you to. No problem. I have 15 to choose from in network. Which one would you like? Nope. That's not out there. You're on your own with this disease. And that's where I was like, wow, when she started to let me know, hey, there's some physicians out there's some doctors out there, some specialists out there in Europe that treat this, I instantly went to, oh my God, how are we going to possibly afford that? And at the same token, though, that quickly went to, I don't know how much it's going to be. I'm sure it's going to be an upsetting amount, but no amount is going to be too much where I wouldn't instantly say yes. And if I have to take out a loan, if I have to take a second job, if I have to cut back on absolutely everything that I like to do or enjoy doing, yes, 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 unequivocally yes, I will do that without hesitation so that we can get you the care that you need and the help that you need. I don't care if I have to take out a loan that I have to pay off until the day I die. I would do that without hesitation to try to give my wife a fighting chance against this disease. And That's the best thing I could recommend to anybody is you can't, this isn't something you plan for. You don't have a contingency plan set up for this. Your insurance is most likely not going to cover this. But if you really love and care about your wife like I do, and hopefully anyone listening to this podcast does, there is no option. There's no, well, can we do it on a budget? It's like, no, no, no. Who is the best specialist? Where's the absolute best place to go? Your body is not going to be in good shape when you're coming back. We need to get you lie flat seats. Like it, I don't like it. There is no mailing it in on this or taking well, what corners can we cut on this? This is not that disease. This is not that situation. This is where your support for your spouse has to be, I will do whatever it takes. And with this, money is no object. It's not about trying to save costs. It's not about, well, it just, you can't. You can't. You can't. That's such a bad road to go down. You just have to say, okay, I'm in. I'm all in. Whatever it takes, let's go. Caregiving behind the scenes that people may not realize is you have to be ready to be there in a different way for your spouse. And you can't make it about yourself. It can't be, oh, I came home and I had this planned, or I wanted to do this weekend. You're going to have to make some sacrifices personally. And they're not hard. They're not big. They're really not. I mean, it's making it sound like it's this big gesture. It's really not. It's just going, okay, whatever this is, I'm okay with it. I'm open to it. If you want to lay in bed and you want me to get you a cold compress and you want me to lay next to you and just tell you about my day, okay. If we have plans to go out and do something or go somewhere and you're on the couch and you're exhausted and you fall asleep, that's fine. I can find something to do. I can sit there with you. You really have to get to a place of understanding that this is a disease that is affecting the physical, mental, every health aspect of your spouse. And it's not about you anymore. It's about them. And if they're up for something, great. And if halfway through that thing, they can't go forward anymore and you got to go home early, okay, that's fine. You make a big plan and the day comes and they say, I just absolutely can't go. And you have to call and cancel. That's okay. Hopefully, whoever you're talking to, your family, your friends, they're going to understand. And I used to get really upset when my wife would cancel things. She was known as a little bit of a canceler, if I'm being honest. Again, this is one of those things where once we knew what was going on, I have thought back and been like, huh, I wonder if some of those things that happened before that I used to think were quirky or weird or I didn't understand, and it just seemed like, why are you so exhausted? Or why aren't you feeling good about this? Or what, I think maybe a lot of these things were initial kind of like flags of she was dealing with some exhaustion. I mean, as long as I've known my wife, she's always had digestive disorders, always. And it was crazy because she ate so well. It was leafy greens and avocado and soy this and seeds that and just, eating every health book that you open up and say, these are the 10 things you should do that eat healthy. Do all these. My wife did those. And then you'd see me being like, how many burgers and burritos and fried things can I fit in my mouth at once? And it was complete polar opposite lifestyles. So she always would do all that stuff, but she had so much stomach pain and bloating and indigestion and gas and just, and now that everything we've researched about mast cell disorder and lipedema and then doing all these blood tests and seeing what your body actually works well with and doesn't work well with. And it's like, oh my God, everything she was doing was actually wrong for her body. Everything she was doing was pouring gasoline on the lipedema fire. And it's just crazy because those were signs. Those were signs her body was screaming, stop eating this, stop doing this. And she didn't know. I didn't know. Now we know. Now we know. It's like, wow, when you don't listen to your body, that's when things like this rear their ugly head because your body is so smart, it's so intuitive, and it's trying to tell you these things. It's so easy to write off. And just like that, it's the same thing now if she's got all these things going on and this chronic pain and swelling and bloating, and she's putting on compression hose and doing all these things. And it's just like I feel so bad. And at the same time, I can only barely scratch the surface of even understanding what she's actually going through because I don't feel it. She can tell me, I can read it in a book, I can listen to a podcast, I can watch a video someone else has posted, and there's all these people going through the same thing that you or your spouse is going through, and no one understands you and no one believes you. And I think that is probably one of the most taxing things of this disease is not being understood. And then when you're not understood, on top of that, not having anybody actually give you the support and the understanding and the love and acknowledgement of what you're going through. It's got to be so tough. It's got to be so tough. So one thing that I wish the world or insurance companies would understand about the cost of chronic illness is this wasn't a bad set of choices my wife made. This wasn't a bad lifestyle choice that she made. It wasn't a lack of exercise and it wasn't a lack of taking care of herself. And yet, when you go to a doctor, they'll, oh, well, you have this and there's nothing we can do. Or, well, we could prescribe you this placebo pill, or you could do, there's no, they don't treat this because there isn't a sexy thing for them to treat. Oh, here's a long-term drug you need to go on that we can bill a lot for, and the drug companies make all this money and blah, 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 yada, blah, blah. It's not, this isn't there. And I really feel like this is a disease that is written off to poor choices. And I think a lot of people that are diagnosed with it or go undiagnosed with it, they just start to feel shame and guilt. And it seems to be one of those things that spirals. You can't get diagnosed. You can't get a treatment plan. You can't even get someone to acknowledge what you're going through. And then you're told, eat better, work out more, eat less fatty foods, eat less carbs, count your calories. And if you think that's really your only solution, this is going to be devastating to go through because that's not the answer. That's not the solution. That's not the path forward. And for anybody out there that goes down that path, and hopefully you're listening to this and these podcasts are opening up your ideas to possibilities and solutions and giving you validation of what you're going through. Fuck the insurance companies. I've never felt good about insurance companies, and I'm not trying to go on to be a political anti-establishment, anti-thing, but I work in an industry where I sell cars, and the richest individual I have ever met was the CFO of a health company that I won't name, but my goodness, did that person have a lot of money. And this is something that I sold this car to this individual 15 years ago, 16 years ago, way before any of this happened to me and my wife. And I just remember going, wow, there is no way that person has that much money to have that house on the top of that mountain in Beverly Hills. And that health company is doing right by their clients. And unfortunately, without getting too political, I think that's our biggest challenge in this country. I'm speaking to only the people, unfortunately, in the United States. Our health insurance companies are not set up for you to feel better. They're not upset. They're not set up for you to win. They're not set up to help you accomplish your life goals and health and wellness. And they're set up to make you feel just well enough and to give you just enough drugs that you'll live out a nice, happy, long life, hopefully. But it's not, unfortunately, in the short time that I've been on this planet, I've seen a lot of people go through some very tough things. And nothing is more frustrating than seeing health insurance opt you out at some point and find a way out of covering you when it finally comes time to pay out a claim. And this is just, I think, one of those things that I can't tell you why. I don't know why they don't cover it. I don't know why they don't diagnose it. I don't know why it's not better known in the United States, but it's one of those things that's just not, it must not be sexy enough to the health insurance companies. And for that, they'll focus on all these other things that are so much more advantageous for them to cover and to treat and or just kind of give you a placebo to treat. I really wish that these diseases had the representation and awareness that they deserve, because anybody suffering with this really deserves to know, one, what's going on with their body, and two, how can they treat it? Is there surgery options available? Are they successful? How do they work? Can those be covered? Can they be in my deductible? I mean, it's insane to me in 2025 that this is something that isn't well known and it isn't covered. And that to me is appalling and shocking. And it can only come from, in my opinion, choices of those high up in insurance companies that purposely have decided to not make this a well-known issue and a treatable issue. It could be. It's so could be. You shouldn't have to go to Europe to have this treated, but you shouldn't have to go to Europe to have it treated, because if you do, if you happen to find the one specialist and the one doctor that will treat it here, oh my God, it's even worse than going to Europe to do it. So I'd rather go somewhere where there's someone that they've known about it and they treated it for a long time, rather than someone out here that just kind of maybe somewhat short of, it's upsetting. So when my wife is flaring or crashing, kind of one of the processes that I take into effect is that whatever she needs in that moment, I try to give it to her. And it may just be that she needs an ice pack. It may be that she needs to lay down. She might need to have the lights off. My wife's always had chronic migraines. She's very sensitive to light and sound, so she might need sound off or light off. And it's really, the process is, again, taking myself out of it and not reacting to it and not getting offended by it, not getting upset by it, and just going, okay, she's having a flare. She doesn't feel well. What can I do to make her comfortable? What can I do to make her feel better in that moment as best as I can, and provide that to her? Can I get something for her to eat real quick? Does she need some sustenance? Does she need just to take a nap? And this is kind of hearkening back to when you're taking care of a child and you never know what to expect. And so that's where, even though, she's an adult, I don't know. It's crazy. She could be going one moment and the next moment, total meltdown. It's just, we kind of laugh about it. She'll say, "Oh, I'm having a meltdown. I'm having a tropical meltdown." And we make it a fun thing. It's like, "Oh, okay, well, what do you need for this meltdown? What's this trip going to take? Do you, do you need a Diet Coke? Do you need some cold water? Do you want to lay down? Do you need an eye pillow? Would you like a massage? Can I get you?" We've got these little massage balls that will turn on. And do you need one of those? Do you need a red light therapy, not blanket, whatever. Do you need a red light therapy belt? Whatever I can do to give her, at least in that moment, some relief, something to take away the way that she's feeling, to lessen that impact of the pain or the swelling. We've had a few fights when she's doing her compression machine, and watching her put the compression socks on and everything that entails. And by the time she's finally got it on and we're about to leave the house and maybe we're running late, and then she's like, "Oh my God, I got to go to the bathroom." And then that's a whole ordeal, because now you got to take all that stuff off to put it back on. It's almost comical in a sad way, where you just have to laugh and go with it and go, "Okay, no problem." That's the support, is no problem. I'm not going to allow myself to get upset about something. Her life has changed. Her life has completely changed, and you can't just walk out the door, and you can't just get up and throw on some clothes, and you can't just go do 15 errands for the day and get all the stuff done on your checklist. And if I'm really busy at work and I need you to do the laundry and I come home and the laundry's not done, I can't sit there and get mad and go, "Well, you've been home all day. You've been home. What have you been doing?" No, you can't do that. So this whole thing for the spouse is taking a moment to look at all that stuff and just go, "Okay, what do you need in this moment? It's not about me. It's about you. What can I do for you?" It's that. How has supporting someone with chronic illness changed me as a person? I would say it has brought about a layer of sympathy for my wife that I didn't always have. And, look, we've been married now gosh, 17 years. And anybody that tells you they have the perfect relationship and they never fight, they're lying to you or they're lying to themselves. Maybe they're not lying to you, but they're lying to themselves. I don't think I know a single couple out there that hasn't had some kind of issue or some kind of disagreement, and things haven't ever gotten petty, and you haven't said something that you wish you could take back. And maybe you have. But unfortunately, I will be honest enough to say that certainly has happened in our marriage and in my relationship. And there were things that I used to harbor resentment with my wife, and you're not giving me this, or I wanted that and you said no, or you're not being aware of my feelings, or I don't want to go down that whole path, but there's certainly been lots of times where I have felt upset and then I held on to that for a long time and I'd bring it up and I'm just waiting till the next time when I can bring this up and throw it in your face or whatever it is. That's happened. And there's been a lot less of that with this disease. And that comes from, I know when we have a disagreement now, or she's not feeling well, or plans are getting canceled or changed, or we're not physically intimate like we used to be, it's taken away that easy out. It's taken away the ego side of me that makes it a me versus her thing. And I remember, this isn't something that I hadn't come to. We used to go to a meditation society, and one of the biggest things I learned when I remember there was a fight we had. We were in the middle of it, and it was nasty, and I was upset, and she was upset, and I just remember having an epiphany one time, and I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Let's leave Donna out of it for a minute. Why am I saying this? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I in this moment? I have to be so right that I'm destroying the person I love. I'm going toe to toe and I can't be wrong and I have to bend them to my will and they better admit defeat. Just this whole nasty, horrible side of fights that you get in with your spouses. And I went, wait a minute. I love this person. Why am I trying to destroy them? Why am I so hurt by whatever this issue is? I remember the fight, but you know what I don't remember? I don't remember what it was about. I don't. I have no idea, but I remember how I felt. And that's the key. I was choosing to feel that way. I was choosing to attack. I was choosing to be upset. I was choosing to make it me versus her rather than taking a step back and say, wait a minute, we're together. We're not adversaries. Why am I fighting her? Obviously, if I'm feeling this way, how is she feeling? And then how is she feeling about how I'm acting right now and what I'm doing and what I'm saying? And like, I finally saw it for what it is. And I'm like, wow, this is so bad. And I'm doing it. I'm the one that's doing this. I'm allowing this to happen. And that's where, because I had that realization and I realized, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like that with this person, with my wife. It's been a lot easier now to disconnect from that when we have had issues that are now centered around, without a doubt, her illness. I'm like, okay, this is her having her illness, and that's what's happening. It's not her versus me. She's not going to this event because she doesn't feel well and she's choosing not to. I would get hurt long ago when I felt like she was opting out of things because she just didn't want to go and she was tired. And I used to think it was, she's just not willing to give this to me. She's not willing to do this. And I think again, it was one of those early signs that she was going through some of this stuff. And she didn't know back then. I didn't know back then. But now I know that it's not her making a decision out of spite or out of any malice or not wanting to give me what I want. I realize she's incapable of that. And that makes my heart go to a different place where all I want to do is then love her and give to her and help her with the situation rather than make it about me and what I want and, well, what aren't you giving me or what aren't we having or why are you stopping this or why can't you get it together? You have to have a shift. And the shift has to come from your heart of giving rather than taking, and understanding rather than questioning. And that, I think, is, if there's anything in this whole podcast that I can share with anybody, I really hope you hear that, is it's those shifts, and they're subtle, but they're so important to not only your mental health, but I think to that of your spouse. If you can really do that, that will move mountains for them more so than anything else, is knowing that you're there for them and taking that burden off of their shoulders. I am getting emotional about it, but with everything my wife is going through, I don't want to lop on to that. I don't want to add to her stresses. I don't want her to have to be like, oh, great, now I got to worry about James and this and that. Like, she's going through so much. And I just want to take things off of her shoulders. I want to alleviate her stress and her worries. I don't want to add to those. I don't want to make it worse. And again, hand to God, I failed at it. I failed at it today. I failed at it today. But it's my recovery time of realizing it and making a change is so much shorter now than it was. And if not at all, I see it coming and headed off at the pass before it gets there. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for a spouse, is you have to change yourself. You can't be the same person you were before this disease. You're going to have to make some sacrifices and some changes. And it's not about you. It's about your spouse. And you owe it to them to give them that. You really do. In closing out, the one thing that makes it worth it, the reason I stay and show up and keep loving, is it's so hard to watch somebody go through this illness and these other issues that she's having. And it's easy to want to run away or tune out or think it'll go away or just kind of ignore the issue. And it's just, it's not going to. It's not going to change. It's not going to get easier. And I'm on this journey with my wife, and it's not always pretty walks by the beach, and it's not always running around a alpine mountain town in Switzerland, and it's not going to always just be laughter and joy. There's going to be some tears, and there's going to be some uncomfortable situations, and there's going to be some doubt, and there's going to be some anger, and there's going to be resentment, and there's going to be fear and tears and emotions and blame, and there's going to be all of those ugly things in life. And I see this as an opportunity. There's been a lot of times in my marriage where I feel like I've let my wife down, and they haven't always been big things, but when you let your spouse down, you know, and they let you know that they know, and then you know that they know that you know, and it's awful. And I'm not going to allow that to happen here, especially with something this significant. And I am blessed that I have the good fortune to be here to take care of her and to help her and to afford to get her the care that she needs. And I am like beyond giddy. I'm so excited to see what happens this coming year when she goes in for the procedures and she comes back. And I can't wait for her to be healthy again. And I hope that brings back the level of life and adventure that she has always enjoyed and wants to continue enjoying. I just want to give that back to her. When right now it's November and the holiday is around the corner, and what do you want for Christmas? And what do you want for Christmas? And no, 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 like, I don't like that. None of that matters. I don't care about that right now. All I really care about is I just want you to get healthy. I just want your body to stop causing you so much pain. And I want you to be excited about the clothes that you're wearing and the way that your body looks and feels, and to feel like you're back in the driver's seat of your life and your body and your physicality. And if I can give that to her, that's more than anything I could ever have hoped to give my wife in her entire life. And so that's why I keep going. And anybody out there that's going through this, I really hope that you find a solution and you find a way. And I hope that your journey will go down the same path that we're going down and hopefully have the same result that we're going to have. We'll see. We'll see. And until next time, we'll talk to you then. Thank you so much for sharing this with me.
So I wanted to end this first, thank my husband for sharing his point of view. But I really wanted to end this with a deep breath for every caregiver who's caring more than they ever admit, and for every woman listening who wonders if she's too much because her body needs more care than most. You're not too much, and your partner is not failing you. You both are navigating a reality no one trained you for. If this conversation opens something up for you, share it with your partner, your caregiver, or someone who's walking the road with you. These stories matter. These truths matter. And the way we learn to love each other through chronic illness matters most of all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I will see you next week. If this episode made you feel even more seen, brought you clarity, or reminded you that you're not alone, please take a moment to rate, review, and send it to someone who needs that same reminder. You can find more tools, blog posts, and support over at donnapiper.com. And hey, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Got a question for me? Every month I do a listener coaching episode, and I'd love to hear from you. Send your questions, stories, or flare-up confessions to donna@donnapiper.com. And you just might hear your answer on the show. Until next time, dear body, I'm listening, and I am so glad that you are here.